Mr. Johnson here with a tutorial on how to create a capture the flag game mode in Gimkit Creative. Before I get started, I kind of want to clarify that the purpose of this video is really just to go over the basics for my students of what you need to include in order to get your capture the flag mode up and running. Gimkit Creative is awesome. It's, a giant toolbox and sandbox where there's lots of cool, complicated stuff you could do if you're willing to teach yourself. But for now, I really just want to go over kind of the basic devices that you need to have in your game in order to get capture the flag to work. And once again, assuming this is just that it's a two-team, straightforward capture the flag game. All right, the first bit of advice is to really think about your map design and make sure that it fits a capture the flag game mode. I went ahead and made a very simple map here. I kept it small on purpose. Just to make it easier for, showing you everything you need to include for this video to have it all on one screen. But I do want to point out that when you're making your map, I would recommend finishing the map first, even before you start, doing any of the programming or coding. But what you can see on my map is it's very evident what the two sides are for the two teams. And I do think that's important for a capture the flag game mode and something you should reflect on right now with your map. Because it can be, either frustrating or confusing for a player. Let's say they were on the blue team and they're trying to cross into the red base. If it's not clear when the red base starts, I don't think it has to be as extreme as the example one I made here. Obviously, I kind of went overboard just for the purpose of the video. So there's red carpet and red props for the red team and, blue carpet and blue props for the blue team. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but I think it's important at any point in the game, a player should be able to tell if they're on their side, if they're on the other team's side. So it is something to think about. Last bit of advice when it comes to the map is I would strongly recommend adding some text and giving each team a name and assigning them a number. The reason it's important to assign them a number is because it will make the devices much easier later. Otherwise, it gets confusing and you forget which team was team one and which team is team two. So I went ahead and added text. I said, hey, my red team is team one and my blue team is team two. In fact, it'll make sense right now when I get into the second bit of advice. So second thing is you need to add some spawn pads. That's going to tell the game where you want players to start. So those are going to be under devices. So once again, devices is here at the bottom left. I'm going to search spawn. And we're looking for spawn pad. Tells the game, even gives you a nice little description. So this is where the players will be when the game begins. So I'm going to throw one over here for the red base. When you open it up, it gives you some options. I don't need players to see it when they're playing the game. You can leave that off if you want. I do want to set it, though, to allow teams. So which team is going to spawn here? Well, I want this to be team one. And I know it's team one because I told myself, hey, the red team is going to be team one. If I want, I can go ahead and copy it and add a second. And so now what happens is when the game starts and it randomly assigns half the players to the red team, since there's two spawn pads for team one, it's just going to randomly split them up. So some of team one will spawn over here and some of team one will spawn over here. I can go ahead and copy these and add one over to the blue team. Don't forget, though, sometimes if you're doing the copy feature, you forget to go and change the settings. So we do need to go and change this to team two. I'm going to go ahead and add a second spawn pad for team two. And now it's the same situation where anybody who's assigned to team two can spawn here at either one of these spawn points. All right, third bit of advice is you need to add flags. And that should be obvious because it's a capture the flag game mode. However, I think some students get confused because there are some props that are called flags, but those are not what we are looking for. Those are, honestly, just think of them as decoration for now. The flags we want are also under devices. So I'm going to go ahead and add one over here for team two. You can click on it, and there's some settings we need to adjust. First of all, we need to assign it a flag color, and since this is for the blue team, it makes sense that it would be blue. Here's what really matters, though, is what team is protecting this. We need to tell the game. Um, Over here, I reminded myself that my blue team is always going to be team 2 when I'm setting up the devices. So the team that's protecting this, I need to change that to team 2. There is a safe zone. I think I like to leave that on, kind of a little protected area for when a player from the other team grabs the flag. And what else do we want to change? Most of this we can leave just the same for now if you want. Um, how long it takes so if the flag gets dropped for it to just respawn back at the flag spot. I like to keep that on the shorter side, but that's kind of up to you. I'm going to go ahead and use the copy feature. So I'm going to press C on the keyboard. We're going to make a copy, put it over here for the red team. Do not forget to change the settings. So this is going to be the red flag, and it is team 1, the red team that's protecting it. Just something to point out. Obviously, you can make more than one flag. So if I wanted to, I could make 2 flags for the red team. Have 2 they have to defend. So just something to think about of how many flags you want them to protect and where you want them in the map. But for now, I'm just going to leave them in the kind of back middle. That's what Gimkit does in their capture the flag mode. All right, fourth thing is we need to tell the game how to recognize when a flag gets captured. That is also under devices, and it is called the flag capture zone. So I'm going to go ahead and add one for the blue team. So basically what this device does is it is looking for a flag. When a flag enters this square, it's going to consider the flag captured. Right now, that square is way too small. So let's go ahead and set it up for the blue base. So I'm going to click on it. Down here at the bottom left, I can hit change size. And I'm going to go ahead and set the zone to be all of the blue team's base. I might need to move my text right now, though, because that's kind of in the way. So we need to change a few settings. So we need to tell the game, what is this zone looking for? Well, if it's on the blue team side, we actually need to tell it to look for the red flag. Because what it's looking for now is if a player from the blue team runs over, grabs the red team's flag, and enters this zone, then the game is going to know, hey, the red team's flag got captured. So we're going to set that to red. We want to have it active from the very beginning of the game. Doesn't need to be visible because our map design makes it clear which team is which side. And we can leave the rest of that for now. To save myself time, I'm going to go ahead and copy this flag zone. And it works out perfect because my red team's base is the same size. But if you needed to, you could always change the size to adjust it. Don't forget that we need to adjust some of the settings. So flag color. So we want this zone looking for the blue flag. And then everything else can stay the same. So now this zone is looking for the blue flag. So what it means is if the red team runs over, picks up the blue flag, and as soon as they enter this zone, which is right here, the game will know that the blue flag was captured. The fifth thing that we need to add to get our capture the flag game up and running is a way to keep track of the score. This is by far the most probably difficult or confusing step, and so I'll try my best to explain it simply. I know it's tricky for students. If you came to watch the video, I would guess this might be the part that you're looking for. I'll do my best to explain it simply. So we're going to go to devices, and we need to search for something called property. I'm going to throw it here for now, but for those of you guys who are new to Gimkit Creative, the players, most of these devices, they don't see them in the game, so it's okay if it's in your map, but I just kind of like to keep them in one spot. Makes it easier when I need to change them. Okay, you're going to put down our property device. We're going to click on it. The reason we're adding this is we need something to keep track of flag score. So that is what I would recommend naming it. Basically, we're telling the game of, hey, we're going to track this property called flag score. It is a number because we're tracking the number of times that a flag gets captured. And lastly, for property scope, we need to change this to team. This is a property that is getting tracked by team. We have 2 teams that will be tracking. And so next, we need to add something called a counter, which is also under devices. We're going to need 2 of these, 1 for each team. I'm going to go ahead and put this here on the red side. We do want it to start at 0. I actually would leave it visible in the game. It can be kind of like a little scoreboard for players. We're going to change the scope to team because this is tracking for just one team. For the property, we need it to update, and it's going to update the flag score. Everything else we can leave blank for right now. Sorry, I guess I shouldn't say leave blank, but we'll leave it as the default. Let's go ahead and add a second counter. So I'm going to copy it. Actually, don't need to change anything for this one, even though it's for the other team. And I'll show you why in a second. But it's starting at 0. It is visible in game. It's set to track for just one team. It will update the property, and the property we're looking for is the flag score. All right, so we have our counters. You need 1 for each team. Like I said, I have mine set up to where it's visible in game because it's going to kind of function like a scoreboard. Last thing that we'll need to do is we need some wires. So we're going to go to the plus, back up to wires. Here's what's interesting is I'm actually going to connect blue flag, this counter, the opposite one. What we want to tell the game is every time that this blue flag is captured, the counter goes up. So increment counter. The reason I connected the blue flag to this one is if this is a scoreboard, then every time the blue flag gets captured, I want the red scoreboard to go up 1. Next, we need to do the same thing for the other one. So I'm going to go back, grab another wire. We're going to connect the flag to the counter. Every time the flag gets captured, the counter goes up by 1. Once again, the red flag is connected to the blue team's scoreboard. So that way, if they capture the red flag, their score goes up. With what we set up just right now, it will keep track of the scoreboard here so players could see it in the game. The problem is the game itself, like at the end, is not going to keep accurate score because we haven't changed the game settings. So last thing we need to do to get the score officially working is we're going to go down to options. We're going to click on map options at the top. We're going to go to score. So we do want a leaderboard, except we're not tracking knockouts. We're tracking a property. We've already set up our property. It was called flag score. And this is actually all good to go. If you wanted to change the score name, you could change it to like flags captured, but honestly, you could just leave it score and that still makes sense. For the score group, it is keeping track by team. And we want it to go from high to low. So whichever team captures more flags, they're going to be at the top. They would be the winners. That should be everything you need for your flag score. While we're here, we can go ahead and talk about the 6th thing you need to do, which is set up the map options for your teams. Gimkit Creative is going to default for the teams to free-for-all, but this is not a free-for-all. It is a team-based game. So we're going to click on specific team amount. Like I said, I'm showing you just a very basic capture the flag mode. And so in this case, there are 2 teams competing against each other. I would assume that you want your game to split the teams evenly to make it fair, so we can leave that the same. The last thing I would change in here is ally indicators and enemy indicators. I would turn those on or to enabled. The reason being is it will help players know who is on their team and who's not on their team. So basically, if they're on the same team, their names will show up in green. If they're not on the same team, their names will show up in red. The 7th step for Capture the Flag game is you need to create a way for players to be able to tag each other. If you play Capture the Flag in real life, that's obviously a big part, is this idea that, like if you're on the red team, for example, and you cross into the blue team's side, those players have the opportunity to tag you to kind of send you back to your other side. Fortunately, it's pretty easy. We're going to look for something in devices. So here, called a tag zone. We will need 1 for each team. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the blue side for now for the blue team. we need to adjust some of the settings. The most important, and you need to get this right, is which team is the tagging team. So the game tells you this is the team that is allowed to tag other players. In this case, I'm setting up the blue team first, and my blue team, I reminded myself, is team 2. So I need to set this to team 2 because it is the blue team or team 2 that's able to tag people inside of this zone. The respawn you want to leave on, so if a player gets tagged, they're not sent out of the game. They just respawn back on their own side. The tag distance I haven't played around with a lot, but it's the idea of how close does another player need to be to actually tag somebody from the other team. I think the smaller you make it, the closer they need to be. The other thing we need to change is the tag area. It defaults to entire map, but that doesn't make sense for our game. We need to change it to a zone. And so now, sure enough, over here we have the tag zone device. It is set up so that for anybody that comes into this zone, the blue team or team 2 can tag them. Except obviously right now it is not the right size. So we're going to click on it. We're going to hit change size down here at the bottom left. And we're going to adjust it so that it is the right size. And then your tag zone would be set up so that if somebody from the red team comes over and they're in this area, they are able to be tagged and sent back to their spot. We need to add another one for the red team, obviously. Problem is, I've got so many devices now towards the end of the game that it makes it hard to see. So I'm going to move this one up a little bit. I'm going to use the C on my keyboard to copy it. I'm going to send it over here for the red team. I'm also going to put it a little high for now, just so that I can click on it. We do need to change it so that the tagging team is team 1 because that is our red team's number. And then everything else should be the same. And now I can use the M shortcut on my keyboard to move it so that it covers the red team space. Don't forget to move this one back so that it covers the blue team space. And we have our tag zones. The last step, step 8, is going to be an optional one. If you want to, you can give your players the opportunity for a little bit more defense. So instead of just tagging, you could also give them an item or a projectile so they can defend their base that way. If you're interested in doing that, you're going to go back to devices. So once again here, I think the easiest way to do this is to give them a device called starting inventory. And so basically what this means is that every player will start the game with this item, whatever you tell it. So we're going to click on it. Once again, you can give them some type of item that's a projectile. You'll know if it's a projectile if it's got the common, uncommon, so kind of these classes. So for example, if I wanted every player to start with a snowball launcher, they would start with 1. And it's that simple. Now every player will start with the snowball launcher and they can use that to also defend their base. Thank you so much for watching. If you need any additional help or if you have any questions, be sure to let me know.